G'day guys, just going to test out a bit of a speed review for Saturday, Randwick, the 14th of February. The fence was probably a little bit off in the straight. It looked hard to make ground, but I think that was mainly due to the slow tempos, which is weird. There was an easterly wind, which is sort of across and behind down the back straight, across and behind a little bit from the chute, and then into the straight. It sort of comes back in your face and into off the right. So usually you get sort of, they go a little bit quicker down the back, a little bit quicker out of the chute, and then sort of slower home. So they were really controlled tempos for mine on Saturday, which sort of made it harder to run on, I think, than what it was appearing, if that makes sense. So getting straight into it, race one was the highway. They went really quick here early, and the first couple of races where the tempos were a little bit more genuine, they steadied up sort of through the middle part and then came home a little bit slower. So Warrior for Peace was up there early and then sort of found a really nice position, 2 or 3 back the fence there, and then sort of got to the middle. Jason Collett did a great job to extricate out from that inside section and sort of nearly wasn't held up at any point, got the win. The unlucky runner was probably Regal. Problem sat wide and then sat wider and sort of came forward when the pace dropped. So the ride wasn't that bad, but the horse certainly was set a huge task, and he was probably the forgive run. Roccolini sort of ran on a little bit late, but it was pace assisted from the back. I don't think there was much to see here. The race itself was okay for this sort of grade, but they're sort of take turns horses. Silent Call kicked on okay up in front. Race 2, which was the midway, I thought they'd go a lot quicker here, and they sort of went along okay the first part, sort of first 400, 300 metres, and then sort of dropped anchor. So there wasn't a lot of pressure. Everyone's a start dragging back, which sort of in turn took Rantan back with it, really handed the race to Malcoupe, set outside the leader here on that controlled speed. Sort of more of a 1,100, 1,200 metre horse. So once it got that nice position and a controlled tempo, it was always going to kick on quite strongly. I think this is sort of his go. And yeah, he's returned in good order. No excuses. Not easy to see outside the leader first up, but as you sort of said, controlled the speed. I think he's probably the horse to look at going forward out of the race. Everyone's a Star was huge from the back after being set an impossible task, and Rantan was poor, even though it was ridden, in that negative fashion or dragged back, whatever happened to it. So, yeah, not much of a race here. Again, okay for this grade. I think Malcoupe can certainly measure up in these midways without any trouble and probably go to a little bit better grade, but I don't think anything else is, really going forward too much out of this race. Race 3, Kieran Star. Again, they sort of worked a little bit early to find their position, steadied right up, and then sprinted home. So it made it difficult to run on from the back again. Pretty average ride on Outspan, who sort of got caught wide after sort of pressing forward early, then stuck in no man's land. Sequin was a little bit of forgive. Miss Chanel was caught wide and sort of third run for the 1100. It was anticipated it might struggle to get up on speed, and it did that. Better by far. I don't know how it got beat at Scone. Got to throw that in, that I still haven't got over that mishap, but very good after controlling, and Kieran Star just, was a very good effort on debut and did the same. Sort of a bit of a push-button horse, sat outside leader, sprinted quite solidly. The time was good. How far can these 2-year-olds go towards sort of a slipper or something like that? It's so weak that you wouldn't say you're not going to be too far away. But I think we're going to learn a lot more about these sort of horses over the next few weeks, and I'd be surprised if the slipper winner went around here. But, these horses are improving, and nothing wrong with the win of Kieran Star, but they did control the race. Nothing back in the field that you would, Zoodazzle was a bit of a forgiving run on debut, but, nothing I don't think that's going to scare the big races over the next few weeks. Race 4, which was a benchmark 78, and Mriki got the win here. I think Sovereign Hill just went way too slow in front, controlled the speed completely, went about sort of 6 lengths below to the 800, and then even slowed down to about 9 by the 600. In comparison to its 2 wins back this prep, they've been solid, even, strong speed. So he's sort of taken the wind out of the other horses by maintaining a solid tempo up in front, whereas here he just sort of up in distance, controlled the speed too much, and allowed those horses into the race late. He was still disappointing, but Amriki just better turn a foot on the day. Duvana's absolutely flying, and Arabian Rose was great from the back, just an impossible task from back there. Sort of the third fastest last 600, fourth fastest last 800 of the day. So horses flying, just the race shape and barrier beat it. Again, this race, I'm going to side with around an average sort of race. They came home rather fast. It's just hard to run, super time off such a slow tempo. So saying this horse is this race again is okay for this grade. Enriquia definitely had an absolute ideal run, one out, one back. It's good to see the horse back into form. Duvana's flying for this are a little bit easier, and Arabian Rose just needs to find it's just sort of a victim of its own racing pattern, but certainly flying. Race 4, again, they just let the leader control here. Not a super slow tempo this time, just a controlled even but below average speed, and then came home slightly above. So always going to be hard to run down sort of one-paced horses. I thought the ride on Helsing was average, just sort of let the leader have too much control. A horse on the back up that's a very one-paced horse needed to be up there pushing that tempo prior to the bend, especially when it was quite relaxed through the middle. Should have been there right on the turn, eyeballing the leader. I think just sort of assumed it would come back to him and then he'd sort of be left in front. That assumption, I'm not saying it costed the race, but it costed its best chance of winning the race, I would say. It was still only a fair run, I thought, Helsing. Glad You Think So was okay returning. Jamboree, as you sort of said, is a dangerous horse when left alone, but this was its birthday, I think. You'd be wary of it next time out. And Cross Tasman was okay, but I think it's certainly sort of not on that fast upward spiral that it was showing earlier in its preparation. So, yeah, I don't think there's any real horses to follow here. Furious was good from the back, sort of really strong from the 800 to the 200 after being set an impossible task from the back. So it's worth looking at next time out in something similar, probably back up to an 1,800 metre, 1,900 metre race where it can sit a little bit closer. It definitely has a short turn of foot that it can maintain when it's allowed to be put into the race. So, yeah, Furious is probably the one worth forgiving here. Light Fingers, Savvy Halley was just absolutely handed the race here. They went out sort of 2 lengths below to the 800, slowed down even further 4 lengths below, and then only came home 2 lengths above. So there's not that huge sprint in the back end here that we saw in, say, race 4. So that tells me this race is pretty average. This was Savvy Halley's absolute birthday. Karinsky was dragged back out of the race, or whether it was sort of a victim of where it ended up, but it was set an impossible task. I thought its effort was good. Artistic Venture basically didn't take part, which takes even further merit from the race. I thought Apocalyptic, I wish I could show its action. I just didn't really love the way it stretched out. I know it was in restricted room and it was a bit of a forgive and probably wants 1,400 metres, but I still think it was pretty steady performance. And, if it was going to the surround, I don't see how it could beat a horse like Tempted going to the surround. Nepo Baby's okay, Sunrays is okay, but again, that tempo is going to allow those sort of horses to stick with the leaders. Queen of Clubs is okay too. I don't think we learnt a lot here, but my worry is this 3-year-old filly's form line is pretty steady. So that's the concern. All that Apocalyptic form looked pretty steady last prep, and I think it's going to be similar here. I'm just not sure whether she looked like she'd physically come on, but she's always looked so dominant physically. But this is a little bit worrying. I want to see her. I'm sort of happy to risk her next time out and let her sort of prove me wrong, is what I'd say. Expressway Stakes, again, we got another really controlled tempo. They went steady early, and then when Caballos sort of established the front, it backed it right off between the 8 and the 6, and then really sprinted home sharply. Did look the winner, and then it's whether it just sort of peaked on its run or the class of Jolly Star was able to get over the top of it late. I thought the ride on Lady Shenandoah was a little bit iffy, sort of waited too long back to the inside, looked like it was trying to stay out of the way, and then when he sort of pulled it around the heels of Caballos late, she really sort of got balanced up and hit the line quite well. So, complete forgive for Lady Shenandoah for me. A complete forgive for Angel Capital, but with the asterisk that he is just a nightmare of a creature. Needs a bit to go his way, needs a stronger rider, needs a strong tempo. Then he can let loose, but he didn't get any of that here. And, he was just a little bit lackluster for sure. Pass mark for Cold Crusher, who was just out sprinted, just needs probably a little bit further, a little bit easier, and a little bit more steady, solid tempo. So, I think this was a good kickoff for these horses going forward to, whatever smart sprinting races they go to. Sort of 1, 2, Caballos probably needs a bit of luck or back to Group 2 grade to be dominant. I think Angel Capital needs to step up in distance. There's no doubt about that. But with that comes needing to settle, and I think, the ride is going to be the key there. Lady Shenandoah, I think 1,400 metres is going to suit her down to the ground. Apollo Stakes, Autumn Glow, completely dominant off a complete joke tempo. The instructor was left in front to do its own thing. Linden was never really going to push the issue, and once Autumn Glow lobbed in that position, even though Aliana was right near it, you knew she was going to be very hard to beat. The main thing going forward, I would say, is that Autumn Glow got that really nice hit out, clean out run, but it wasn't a gut buster. Should really bring her on, whether she goes to 14, 15, 1600 metres next run. She should be ready for all those things. Probably a strong mile would be the only test, but you see what these weight for age races are now. They're just really slowly run races. Sit sprints are going to suit her. How they're going to beat her, I'm not really sure, to be honest. She's just so dominant. Aliana was good, especially late. I thought she really picked up late. She wants a little bit further, going to a mile next time. If it was a strong run mile, might bring her back into calculations a little bit closer with Autumn Glow. But yeah, she's far more versatile, Autumn Glow, and she's really showing no signs of weakness in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, I think if J-Max sticks with her and she continues in this weight for age sort of races, I find it hard for them to beat her or turn the tables. No matter sort of what happens, she looks like she's got all the boxes covered at the moment. She can adapt to anything. So yeah, she's really exciting and genuinely so. Had some favours here, but very dominant. Chael Wolf pulled up with blood in its mouth, I think. They'd established it didn't come from the lungs, so it'll continue on its prep with no ban. Hopefully that was just a nothing issue. Steffi Magnetti was good. I thought Wootton Vernai and Soul of Spain were good first up for stayers, and Tino got beat 8, but he did run some very fast sections between the 8 and the 200. I think he ran the fastest 8 to the 200 of the day. So that shows how far he was off the speed after missing the start, and he's a complete forgive. So he's a horse that does improve into his preparation, whether it be 3rd, 4th up. He could be there about, certainly. Don't write him off this run. He did run some very slick sections in the middle of that race with the 8 to the 2, and then did get very tired late, but was probably entitled to, considering the petrol that he spent sort of trying to make up a bit of ground there. Similar story for Steffi Magnetica. And as you sort of said, Wootton Vernai, Soul of Spain, complete forgives for, they're not going to be racing these sorts of horses once they get up to sort of 2,000 metres and around and plus. So, yeah, forgive runs for them. Triscay Stakes, I actually thought they went slower here than what it looked like. They went quite solidly early. Did back it off between the 8 and the 6, so the leaders got a good breather there and then kicked home. They didn't kick home significantly fast, but the time overall was still above average, so it's a decent race. Weeping Woman was basically there to be beaten and nothing could, so I would say Manal sort of had to go back towards the inside but had its chance. Verona Rose was set a monster task, but she couldn't go early, so it's not really the rider's fault. She's just a nightmare of a creature, very hard horse to catch. Like I'm a big fan of her, so I was on her on Saturday, but she just is her own biggest enemy, and when she was ridden closer at Newcastle, she didn't finish off the same. So I don't know what the answer to her. She's a nightmare. Dark Glitter, a freak, backing up the inside, ran some really slick sections closing with no public trial. She's an incredible horse. Mike Van Gestel's done an incredible job with this horse, but set an impossible task here and got within 2 lengths again of a pretty quality Group 2 mares race. So she was huge. Chula was okay, just feeling like he was out sprinted. Okay, it needs easier and something a little bit longer for sure. Lilac was bad. Count Your Blessings was out the back all the way and pretty steady as well. Super Norwest was found out, I think, class-wise, and Gerringong just, once it got back was out of play, but was still disappointing. I think this form will be okay for sure, especially for sort of Group 2 mares grade, whether they can go forward to Group 1 horses, whether Manal sort of reached a peak. She did have to carry the 59.5 here and give weight to most of these horses. There might be a better race for her handicap-wise where she can slide in and be dangerous. But, I don't think there's much between a few of these horses, and I don't know whether they can sort of go forward to that higher level. But Weeping Woman is a horse that just keeps sort of raising the bar, and Joe's done a great job with her. She's really adaptable, gets up on speed. If she's left alone, she's hard to catch in just about anything. So, interesting race, but again, a pretty average, slightly above average race, so it should feed to sort of that Group 3, Group 2 mares form without much trouble. The last was a bad race. They went slow, they slowed down, they sprinted home, but they didn't really sprint home too quickly. And there were, pretty average. There were horses sort of got knocked over a bit. I think sort of Sunshine in My Pocket was very unlucky. Get a Fix sort of got knocked over a little bit late, but looked to have had its chance, and it was like $5 out to $16 there. It was very weird. Moving out, he's a horse that shouldn't be suited by a sit sprint, ran the second fastest last 200 of the day. So that's a good effort by her. Bunker Hut sort of got warmed up through the line, and as I sort of mentioned, so did Sunshine in a Pocket. Whether it was a certainty beat or not, no one will ever know, but it was definitely a good performance. Altoff was okay, set an impossible task, which always looked a chance. Limnia was just a pass mark for mine first up, not sure what to do with it, and Aerodrome was terrible. The money came for it, sat in a good spot. Did get pulling and sort of over-raced, and the jockey fought it. I'm not sure why he didn't sort of, wasn't a bit more positive early. I thought the horse could nearly have led if it wanted to, but they chose against that, and then he was very plain in the straight. So nothing in the steward's report about Aerodrome, whether he needed the run or not, sort of only time will tell. This race is I'm just very concerned about the form coming out of this race. Such slow tempo, and then, didn't really rock at home. Sort of Gatsby's hard fit, ran second, moving out, sort of poking up after having a perfect run. It's a horse that needs further ground, so I'm not being too dismissive of it, and a horse that can certainly improve. So not really wanting to be too harsh on it going forward. Probably Gatsby's the one that had the right run. Glinda Silver, only beaten half a length after being very poor first up, is a bit of a danger sign. Sunshine in My Pocket unlucky in closing. There's a lot of danger signs over this race, so just be very careful about it, I'd say, going forward. That's it for Randwick. A lot longer than what I was hoping to sort of pump out there, but hopefully some information. I'll try and maybe keep it shorter in the future. I might even do a more condensed version. We'll see what happens, but I'll do one for Caulfield too. Cheers, guys.